It's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer, and this is a battle between two Japanese lager beers. I could have added Sapporo, but I couldn't find it at that particular moment in the bottle shop that I was in. Maybe I could have gone to Tesco, but maybe that's a battle for another time. This battle is between Asahi Super Dry, 330 milliliter bottle, 5% ABV, and a beer that I tried before I tried Asahi. Now, I tried Asahi very, very early on in my beer drinking journey. Actually, no, I need to change that. Let me finish what I was saying anyway. This is Japan's premium beer, as they say, and this is Kirin Ichiban. This is 4.6% ABV. I just changed my mind because if you remember rightly, or if you're old enough to remember, many moons ago, there was, I think it was 2002. It was 2002. World Cup finals in Asia. And back then, we had no Asahi. But I remember, because of the World Cup, we had Japan's Asahi over here. And I probably tried it back then. Can't remember because it was like 22 years ago. But I imagine I tried it back then. But Kirin Ichiban, I know a little bit about this brewery because I was, back in the day, a little bit friendly with Wells and Youngs. We'll get to all of that in a moment. First and foremost, let's get these beers out into a glass and see what we get. So let's start off with the Asahi then. There's the bottle cap. And they've got something on the neck here saying Karakuchi. Brown bottle. Here we go. Beers were around the £2 mark. I'm using very similar glasses for these beers. So the beer has poured out. A one finger white head. Good levels of carbonation. Carbonation is quite large. Never a good sign. Never a good sign when you have large carbonation. Amber beer in colour. And it's clear. Only because that very same brewer from Wells and Youngs told me the smaller the bubble, the better the beer. And to be honest with you, in 14 years of reviewing beer, it's always been the case. The smaller the bubble, the better the beer. If a certain person's watching right now, he's probably giggling behind the camera or behind his computer screen or his mobile phone screen. Kirin Ichiban, this 4.6% ABV. I'll tell you all about why I know just a little bit about this beer and this brewery. It has something to do with Wells and Youngs. Bit of smoke on the bottle opening. Beer in the glass. Oh, look at this. Lovely. Lovely, lovely. So this is, as you can see, more refined carbonation. Carbonation here on the Kirin Ichiban is, I mean, the Asahi has settled down now. But this looks a really, really decent beer. Again, £2 a bottle, two finger white head, good levels of carbonation, amber in colour. So let's get this story out of the way, shall we? Kirin Ichiban. So I went to, one of the first times I ever left the kitchen. I used to do a lot of kitchen beer reviews, more or less doing it the same now, aren't we? But Wells and Youngs reached out to me and they said, would you like to come out to our brewery and film? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And whilst I was there, I met the wonderful Jim Robinson, who was the head brewer at the time of Wells and Young's Brewery. And he told me all about the smaller the bubble, the better the beer. Always stuck in my mind. And we also got on the subject of Kirin Ichiban, because Wells and Young's at that time had just signed a contract with Kirin Ichiban whereby they brewed their beer for them. And they kind of kept on reiterating, Wells and Young's, Jim Robinson, he was reiterating all of the time about like the levels of quality and what they expected this Japanese brewer from Wells and Young's. They had people from Kirin Ichiban at Wells and Young's through every stage of the brewing process, watching them like hawks, making sure they were producing this beer to the level of that same quality that they produce it in Japan. And that has always stuck with me. That's always been one of those situations where, of course, Kirin Ichiban here, they really care about their product. They really want this beer to work in the UK. It never quite took off. Not like Asahi. Asahi seemed, especially the last 10 years, look what Asahi have done over the last 10 years. They bought Fuller's Brewery. They bought Meantime Brewery. I mean, they made some big moves in the British beer market. Let's get into Asahi then. Aroma. Light, grainy. A little bit of sweet malt. Not much in the way of bitterness. Let's dive in. Crisp, refreshing, a little bit sweet. It's all right there. It's okay. Quite dry, as they described it. Carbonation pushes the beer on the inside of the mouth. It's just an inoffensive light lager. An inoffensive light lager, that's how I'm going to call this. There is a nice amount of bitterness on the back end. It isn't a bad beer. Is it brewed in the UK? Is it brewed in Japan? Brewed and bottled in Italy at Peroni. There we go. So it's not British brewed. It's not Japanese brewed. It's Italian brewed. Kirin Ichiban, produced by Carlsberg Marston's Brewing Company. There we go. Right, okay, Wolverhampton. Right, I can talk to you about that. Aroma. Sweetness. I'm going to say straight away, it's a better beer. It's a better produced beer. It's this, you get a little bit more grain, a little bit more malt, a little bit more bitterness, a little bit more balance. Carbonation's a bit better. There's just a little bit more depth to it, a little bit more depth of flavour. It's definitely the better beer. Now, I was talking to you about Wells and Young's one night producing Kirin Ichiban. This makes perfect sense now. The Carlsberg Marston's Brewing Company now brew this beer. I won't bore you too much. Basically, I'll be very quick with this. Carlsberg Marston's bought out Wells and Young's, so they probably bought out the contract to brew Kirin Ichiban. It's as simple as that. No more to it, really. We'll end the conversation on Carlsberg Marston's there. Light, crisp, refreshing, a little bit of sweet malt, a A little bit of bitterness on the back end. A little bit more depth. A little bit more depth to the Kirin Ichiban, to the Asahi Super Dry. Asahi Super Dry. Yeah, it's just lacking something compared to the Kirin. It's the malt, I believe. Yeah, it's the malt. A little bit more sweet malt coming through from the Kirin Ichiban. Right, rating. So I'm going to say 7. 7 for the Asahi Super Dry. Not the worst beer I've ever tried. They actually, once upon a time, I believe maybe Shepherd Neame might have brewed Asahi back in the day, back like early 2010s. Maybe Shepherd Neame brewed their cask and keg stuff. Definitely keg. 7 out of 10 for the Asahi. Eight out of 10 for the Kirin Ichiban. A decent beer. I hope you liked this video. Maybe I could have added Sapporo to the mix. But please put your comments in the comments box. Subscribe to our daily beer and food reviews. Give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom. Cheers.